Good afternoon, Hatfield. Welcome to the February 20th, 2024 meeting of the Hatfield Select Board. We are meeting a little earlier tonight to accommodate a work event that I have this evening, so I appreciate the flexibility of my colleagues. As usual, I will open the meeting and read our public participation policy. The Hatfield Select Board welcomes everyone to its meetings and all other public meetings of the town of Hatfield. All regular and special meetings of the boards and committees of the town of Hatfield shall be open to the public and shall conform to the open meeting law. Executive sessions are closed to the public and will be held only as prescribed by the statutes of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is important to recognize that the open meeting law affords the opportunity to listen to the proceedings, but not necessarily participate. During meetings of the Select Board, an attempt will be made to find a balance between hearing from members of the community and conducting the required business of the Hatfield Select Board. I don't think I have any announcements. You said no announcements. You said no. Marlene, anything?
None, thank you.
Can't think of anything. So then we'll go ahead. Is anyone here for public forum? Carrie, come on up. Don't be sorry.
But I was asked to do this, so I wanted to make sure I did. Okay. For those who don't know me, I'm Flaherty, Lieutenant Flaherty for the fire department, and I was asked by one of our per diem members to read a letter that he's submitting to you all as the board and to the town administrator, but he could not be here today because of his full-time for Charlton Fire Department, so he had written it and actually pulled me aside and asked if I would read it publicly and then submit the letters and signatures to you of this letter. So I'll make this as quick as possible of my 3 minutes. I hope this letter finds you all well. My name is Jeffrey Hamburg, and I am taking this time to share some information with you regarding the Hatfield Fire Department. The fire service in this country is built on tradition and cultures like integrity, honor, and trust dating back to our founding fathers of this country. For example, Benjamin Franklin was a member of the first paid fire department in the country. I mention this historic fact because the culture that carries on today in modern firehouses plays a big role in the department that a firefighter chooses to serve at. Myself and many other per diem members of the Hatfield Fire Department travel nearly an hour to serve the citizens of Hatfield during our respective shifts because of the culture that Chief Flaherty has cultivated and continues to support here. Most of the per diem members work full-time as firefighters and EMT paramedics for large municipalities around the New England area. We could all work part-time jobs that are closer to our homes with better pay. However, the great morale and the positive culture here at Hatfield Fire Department makes it a desirable place to serve in this capacity. We all feel very supported and empowered by Chief Flaherty, who continues to advocate for his members and supports them along their careers in the fire service. He constantly makes sure we have the tools and equipment required to do our jobs to the best of our abilities within his power. He is always open to hearing new ideas or other perspectives on topics that arise, and is not afraid to use other people's good ideas to accomplish goals that improve our service to the community here. These leadership qualities are desirable and hard to find these days. This type of behavior that he displays benefits the town greatly by attracting seasoned, experienced firefighters and EMS providers with elevated levels of certification and qualifications to be on shift here. Just to work under the direction of Chief Flaherty in an environment like he has created here, despite the low salary and less than ideal schedules compared to other departments. Fire departments across the nation are facing the same issues of recruitment and retention of members that Hatfield is facing today. Wondering what they can do to entice potential employees to choose their department and stay long enough to get a return on the very expensive investment of hiring new members. In my opinion, there are 4 major topics that firefighters consider when it comes to choosing a place to work. Salary, scheduled 24-hour shifts are ideally, benefits, and culture. Even larger departments who have more desirable schedules, better benefits, and higher salaries still struggle to hire and retain employees because of how competitive the fire service has become and how poor the culture can be even in affluent departments. Employees want to work where they feel supported and empowered with a good shift schedule and fair wages. I speak for myself and many other per diem members of the department when I say that Chief Flaherty is a leading reason that we came here and to continue to serve here under his leadership. Most of the per diem firefighter paramedics work 24-hour rotating shifts at their primary firehouses and would prefer to work 24-hour shifts here in Hatfield, as this would align better with our rotating schedules and allow us to cover more hours with ALS ambulance staffing while also improving our on-duty fire coverage. This change to the staffing configuration shortens response times, ultimately reducing loss of life and property. These increases to staffing would also help raise the town's ISO ratings, which then reduces property insurance costs to residents and improve the quality of emergency services that the residents of Hatfield would receive and certainly deserve. These lower insurance costs and higher ISO ratings also attract larger commercial industries as well, which helps offset the tax burden for the homeowners in Hatfield. We currently have nearly enough per diem paramedics to be able to provide 24/7 ALS coverage without having to pull Chief Flaherty off his normal daily duties as the chief officer of the department, if the town would fund the additional wages needed to support this change in the staffing configuration. I also believe that offering 24-hour shifts would increase the desirability to work here for those who have not applied just yet in the past due to undesirable current schedules. Chief Flaherty is the only fire chief in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that operates on the primary ambulance for his department as the sole paramedic 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. As if that wasn't enough, he also signs up for overnight ambulance coverage shifts several times a week outside his work schedule to ensure that the residents of Hatfield receive a paramedic level ambulance as often as they possibly can. He does all of this while also balancing the roles of fire chief, fire prevention officer, community risk reduction, public safe educator, fire and EMS training coordinator, emergency manager director, and the countless other tasks with no administrative help or assistance, or assistant. Chief Flaherty is widely respected in the fire service across the Commonwealth and beyond, serving on the board for Western Mass Fire Chiefs Association and teaching at the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy. I truly hope the town of Hatfield understands how fortunate they are to have such a great leader steering the reins of their fire department in this town, which has attracted highly desirable, educated, and seasoned firefighters and EMS personnel to choose Hatfield as the community to serve in. Chief Flaherty's vision for the growth of this department is solely to better protect the citizens of this great town, and I hope this town will continue to support his exceptional leadership and direction of this department. I thank you for the opportunity to submit this letter, and I hope you feel proud to have a leader like Chief Flaherty protecting your community day after day. Respectfully, Jeffrey Hamburg, firefighter, paramedic for Hatfield, but also Charlton Fire Department.
Thank you, that's a very thoughtful letter.
So I have
Very
copies
good.
for all of you too that I'll just
Okay.
leave with you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie.
Sure. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's got to make you feel good, Bob. That's got to make you feel good. That's a nice letter. Okay, anyone else for public forum? Let's quickly take up the consent agenda items before we get into, we do have Representative Sabadosa here, and I want to be very respectful of her schedule and time, but I think we could get these done fairly quickly. So first would be the minutes, accepting the minutes of December 5th, January 2nd, January 16th, executive session, February 6th, and February 6th.
Well, are we ready to do executive sessions? We're still in discussion on executive sessions.
That's fine. I didn't mean to read the January, that date. Sorry, just the regular session ones.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for January 2nd, 2024, and December 5th, 2023.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Karen. And then January 16th was executive session, but February 6th. Did you include that in the motion?
No, I didn't.
February 6th is an executive
That's
session.
It's an executive
as well.
session
Yes.
as well. Okay.
So we'll hold.
So
on
we will
those.
hold on those as those matters are still pending. So then we have the presidential primary. So this is just to accept the warrant, correct, for the presidential primary?
That's all it is, yeah.
Care to make a
Okay,
motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the presidential primary.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then last item is the liquor license for Posada, doing business as Cantina. This is just signing. We already approved it,
You
right?
approved their
So
application.
did this actually come through
Yes,
from the EBC?
it did.
Oh,
Finally,
geez.
it took a very long time.
So once this is
So
signed, they can
select board-
begin serving?
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that was.
It allows them to contact a wholesaler, and because they're going to have to
Okay.
produce the copy of this
Right,
license
okay.
to a wholesaler.
So we don't need to vote it, we're just signing it, right?
You are voting it
We are
because you
voting it.
voted to accept the application that they submitted,
Okay. So I'll take a
the
motion
license.
to sign this license.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we sign the license for.
Cantina.
The Cantina.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. That's great. I'm really glad that that
Oh, I
has
was so
finally.
pleased to hear
I
this
know, I was in there
week.
last weekend and was thinking I
Yeah.
feel bad for them, all the delays. Okay, we got through all the consent agenda items, so we are ready to move to our first posted business item tonight, and we're joined by Rep. Sabadosa. Lindsay, thanks for coming. Come on up to the microphone.
Well, thank you so much for putting me on the agenda. It's nice to see everybody. And I wanted to come because I wanted to, first of all, thank you for the letter that you sent me regarding the golf court issue. I am, of course, here to talk about golf carts this evening, not golf courses. So I'll be really brief. We have brought the issue to House Counsel, and what they are asking for is a home rule petition from the town of Hatfield. So with the information that you've provided, we have a general idea of how you'd like to proceed. If you want to just send us a home rule petition with a general idea, that's fine, we can work from there, but we do need a vote from the community. So I'm sorry to come back and ask you to do more work, but that's what I'm coming to ask you to do. If you have very specific language, we're also, very happy to work with that as well. But I am going to need that in order to proceed.
And so that would be a town meeting vote.
It would be a
So
town
that's,
meeting
I
vote.
mean, the timing is perfect.
That's why I
because
wanted to come
we're-
in.
We're putting together,
Get
the
that on the
warrant and all of that. So I would suggest that in terms of specific language, Marlene, maybe you and Chief DeKoschak.
Yes.
Work
And
on
actually,
that.
I had anticipated an article
what you
anyway,
thought I was
because
gonna
we
say.
wanted to make a bylaw as well.
Perfect.
Right.
And in-house counsel did suggest, and this of course is totally up to the town, but if you want to have your town council take a peek at it before you send it
Yes.
over, only because of liability issues, he warned me, don't tell them what to say, because that would be a problem for me. So
Right.
if it works for town meeting, we're happy to file it as soon as we get that vote, and we'll try
Okay.
to move it through as quickly as we can. They do have a 2-year limit, so if we can't get it through by the end of this session, which is coming up, we'll be able to go back next year, and we might just need a letter from you asking us to extend if we run into delays,
Okay.
as often happens.
I mean, it's pretty tight time frame after town meeting to try to run it through before the session ends.
Indeed, but we can, we can start the
try it.
process. We'll certainly do all of the meetings.
So it would still be active to use in the next session.
Exactly, exactly. So it's not a waste of time to do it now. And we can always, with a letter from the select board, keep it alive if necessary.
Okay.
One way or the
Maybe it
other.
could even get,
It might be fast, who knows?
you never know.
You never know.
Okay.
That is good news.
That's not
Yeah, I
bad
think
news.
it's, I think
It's
it's
not
good
bad. I don't
news. And I
consider it
think
bad news, yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, because I think other communities may, I don't know, maybe we're a little bit unique in,
Be the first in the state, so there's that.
right.
But it's good to be first and figure out how this would all work. And I'm sure there are other communities interested.
Okay, well, I certainly appreciate you being on top of the timing of it and all of that, and running it by House Counsel, and it shouldn't take long, right, to
No.
get her something?
No,
Okay.
shouldn't at all.
Okay.
And then we'll get it on the warrant, everything we need to get on the warrant, which is May
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 14th.
14th.
Right, town meeting's May 14th, yes.
Good.
And then we could let you know right afterwards what happens.
Wonderful.
So, excellent.
That's all I have for you.
That's it.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much, everybody.
Thank you.
you,
Thanks
Lindsay.
for coming in. Appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna move right along because I'm trying to squeeze in as much as I can. I have to leave tonight. So Chief Flaherty is here to discuss himself and, what is Luke's rank?
He's a captain.
Captain Longstreet, attending a conference in Arizona. So I'll let you describe what the conference is about.
So I submitted my letter 2 weeks ago to Marlene about travel due to our HR policies, and it's to go to the Station Design Conference. There's been a little bit more of an uptick I know that the comprehensive plan and several other projects and grants that we've gotten in the last couple of years have discussed about moving some of our critical services out of the floodplain. It sounds like it's gotten a little bit more headway within the comprehensive plan, and it's also on the fire department's 10-year capital plan is to potentially get a public safety building or a mixed-use building, honestly. So this would be just the ability to go out and kind of see what the process is. I don't think anybody here has ever been really part of the whole process of a public safety building or a mixed-use building like this could be. It's to go out, talk to architects, get some ideas, see what's out there, see some general cost ideas. And it's really the idea is that first step to move forward. We know that these are multi-year process if they were to move forward. And at this point, to the best of my knowledge, we've never really done anything to look at what the steps are, look at potential costs or anything. Everything is kind of very speculative at this point. So it'd be the opportunity to go out and meet with some of these folks out at this conference. They run it every year. And the reason why it was be myself and Captain Longstreet, he's our training officer. So a lot of these buildings, you can build some of the training props into the building as you're doing it. And obviously, you guys know Luke, he's very well versed in construction, a lot of other aspects too. So he would be a good pick to go. If he can't, we'd have to find another alternate to go to it. The cost would be funded through our normal department travel and meals expense. We have a professional development line that's for conferences. We rarely ever spend money out of it because we don't typically travel very often. So that was the request.
So it's within the spending is within your current
Yeah, it's all
budget.
within the budget that's already
I mean,
there.
to be honest, it's really a shame that, and this is water under the bridge, that we didn't, because we have just cobbed together, right? All of our police, our fire, our ambulance have just been, but we didn't pursue this when all the Homeland Security money was flying around, after September 11th. But water under the bridge, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but.
Part of the reason too is why I'm moving a little bit quicker than we have in the past is that I think folks are aware there was some legislation coming at the state level and the federal level for, they have the school building committees out there. There's actually one trying to move forward for public safety buildings, but the projects have to be essentially shovel ready to move forward. There was rumor at the federal level, like there's the AFG and the SAFER grant, that they may actually start one for public safety complexes. Obviously, it could still be a little bit down the road, but we're also a little bit down the road to really move forward. So there is potential in the next couple of years that there might actually be some federal and or state money becoming available. So it'd be nice to try to have at least a little bit of the process started should that actually take place.
Well, because typically, the further you are in the planning process, the more favorable your application is looked at. And then there's other things happening too. There's changes at the DPW, maybe I don't know. There's a lot to consider, maybe space up there. I have no idea.
But getting some groundwork done and seeing what options are available, and that's kind of what this is. It's multiple days, multiple sessions of coming up with ideas and the planning process, how you go about, hiring architects and all of it. It's from beginning to end, the planning all the way through construction phases. You get to learn little bits and pieces out of it for a couple of days.
I know that with those larger grants, these pre-conferences can be very helpful because they are big projects. I don't personally have a problem with it, but I don't know what.
I guess I'm just in my head trying to say, sending you out to Arizona for a pre-conference of fire stations when it's still a few years away, is that a good message to the taxpayers or a bad message to the taxpayers? Are we even at the point where we're ready for even discussion on a fire station when we might be discussing down the road a multi-purpose building, which would be putting our services together or not? I mean, we're not even at the point where we're ready to negotiate on or even discuss stuff like that. So I guess I'm not convinced. In my head, I'm trying to get convinced of if you go now and then 4 or 5 years down the road, then we start and you get a bigger offer job someplace. Now, I mean, we lose that information, but I'm just trying to figure out how to say to the taxpayers, this is a good thing or a bad thing in my head, that's all. What are your thoughts, Greg?
I think I totally respect the chief's planning because he's the chief. He knows what's good. I respect that. At the same time, I don't know if that's the first step in doing all this stuff. I really don't know if that is the first step for us to do. I'm hoping you do, and I understand what you're saying. You get that stuff down so that we can do something, but but I don't even know what the first step is in planning this.
One of the big things with the conference is truthfully the planning stage, is how do you go about starting the process? I think 2 whole days almost of the 3 is that first part, and then there's vendors and other things that are out there. You get to have, you know, a little bit of the fun stuff of looking at potential projects, but most of it's really the planning on how you go about, you know, addressing the taxpayers and presenting a plan. My take, and I had this conversation with Diana a few months ago, is I think a mixed use actually works. I think fire, police, council on aging would actually be really beneficial. I'm actually in favor of that type of a building, and I know that's, you know, been a big talk of what do we need for, you know, for more than just one particular department, and that's kind of what I'm looking to see what's out there, honestly.
But this conference isn't for a multi-building, it's basically just for fire station design, right?
They're everything. Because some of the awards that come out every year, they actually have multi-use buildings. It's, you know, town offices and emergency services. There's central services with emergency services.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of merits to looking at multi-use buildings, like you're saying. Particularly, we know we need to do something with our space for our seniors, but and at the same time, it would also serve probably as a shelter.
Correct.
You know, during any kind of emergency or anything like that. Because as we know, the shelter right now is in the heart of where you're most likely to have an emergency, which our most common emergency here would be flooding.
We actually,
I think,
Town of Hatfield doesn't have a shelter. We can't use any of our buildings for shelters. Our
Right.
fire station is the EOC, Emergency Operations Center,
so you can't have that as.
but we're not qualified.
I
as a-
see both of your
as a
points,
shelter.
like where do you start? But, I mean, this is an opportunity to start somewhere.
I'm okay with the part you're saying, but like Luke going down to learn how to design this stuff, I guess that seems like it's very, very advanced in the stages of doing this. to me.
Yeah, it was just having 2 people go, so there's more
Yeah.
information. As it looks right now, I'm not sure he'll actually get the time off from work.
Yeah.
I talked to him again after I
I
submitted
mean,
my
maybe a
letter.
compromise is just to have the chief go, is that what you're saying? To try to mitigate the expense? I
Yeah,
mean,
and my other concern is you're gonna have enough money for, you know, back in June, you were asking for 10,000 more because of sending somebody to go to the academy in February, I think. Are you
Right,
still gonna,
the-
are you still gonna have that, or you're
Right,
gonna?
where
are
the
you-
money is actually going is one's on salary, one's on the expense side.
Okay, but you'll still have the money to
Yes.
go to that
Yes,
training that you were asking about before?
yes.
you don't expect to be asking to have any overages on the spending side?
I don't expect overages on either side as of right now.
I
The only
mean,
thing that's over is ALS intercepts, but that's,
You know, I think
half
the whole,
budget.
you know, we talk about all the different things that are up in the air about the department. And a lot of things are up in the air, but if you don't start somewhere, at least to be able to say to townspeople, you know, that we went and started exploring this option, but maybe it is just one member of the department that goes.
it is kind of looking like it would probably be only one.
Only
Just
one anyway.
Scheduling's not really working out with the others. We tried, but it's not working out.
They don't have any classes like that around here that would be more directed towards Massachusetts?
Well, that was one of my concerns, that, you know, I assume state by state, there's a lot of variations in, you know, sort of the procedures. So is this designed to be like a national conference on this?
Actually, a couple of the architects are, I think one is from Mass and one is from Connecticut that are vendors or exhibitors out there. They've done a lot in this area.
'Cause I know like FEMA has put out information and booklets and actually books on building public safety buildings.
Is there a
If they would help
component
out.
to this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That is how, I went to something like this many, many years ago when I worked for Hampshire County And it was actually about regional ambulance services and trying to build those. And it was about a big grant program that would allow you to do that. And so is there a component to this that is at all instructional about the grant opportunities that are out there, even at the federal level?
Not for this, no. And a lot of
That
them-
would make that a great conference. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're in that boat where some of the other grants, Hatfield doesn't qualify for some of them because the median income is just high enough that we don't qualify for some of them. But this one, I don't have anything. A lot of the FEMA ones I've seen, some of the information from FEMA is, how you make sure that it's built to withstand certain catastrophes.
Marlene, is there anything we're missing about out-of-state travel that would have to be taken into consideration for this request? I know that we have a policy, right? on
We
out-of-state?
do, and yeah, authorization is required by the select board.
Just the authorization, there's nothing else. I mean,
So there would be, so all the expenses would be covered out of your operating budget?
The flight, the hotel, and the conference are all out of budget. There's food included. If I need to buy one meal, I could pay for my own meal. It's not a big deal. But there is money there for all of it if it needed to be.
and you don't expect to have any shortages in the budget at the end of the year?
That was my only concern and
be a-
question
that would-
that you have.
That would then be, I think that would be a tough
Right.
one at the end of the year to
This
then,
won't even draw down those two particular lines because it's
okay.
in our budget. It's built into two separate lines technically for attending the conference, and then the actual travel. It's two separate, and it won't even diminish them all the way down. There'll still be money left in both lines.
I mean, basically, you're asking to spend something within your budget and to, try to be proactive about, something looming large on our horizon. I mean, there's a lot of things looming large on our horizon outside of your budget as well. But I don't know, how often does the conference happen?
Typically once a year.
Is it always held in Arizona?
I think the last 2 years have been in Arizona. I think it was in Indianapolis 3 years ago. So it moves around. It's sponsored by Firehouse Magazine, so depends on where they can find a place.
I'm okay with it. But,
Well, if we can get something back on the multi-purpose buildings, that's the key, but still, we're not even close for a couple of years. And if you can put a package together of the information for the future, I guess, but then that might all change on code changes in 4 or 5 years.
yeah, I mean, we're talking about a long process here for getting any, even just probably land acquisition, because we have no idea where we might site something like this.
And that's actually, I think, one of them is, acquiring land.
Site
There's
selection
a whole
and-
45-minute session on some of these things. So it's, we don't know what we don't know right now. So to Ed's point, we could be several years away. It could be nothing, but we're never going to know until we actually get some data on it to know that this is either a $6 million building or this is a $16 million building. That's a huge difference potentially moving forward if we need to. But we really have no information at this point at all. Everything is what people perceive it to be.
So Chief, I'm just thinking, the past few years, we've talked about, a new facility. But is it on the capital plan?
I have
thought
it in
you
FY
submitted
'27.
some- Okay, I thought there was.
Yeah, which, not happening, but
Yeah.
Placeholders.
we, it's good to keep it on the plan.
Yes.
We took it off for 4 or 5 years, and it is something that's reality. Both of us have outgrown our space out back. They've outgrown their space downstairs. So it's it's kind of trending that
The space issues here, talked about this on and on last time I was on the board. We talk about the museum and the historical artifacts and all these other things. So there's a lot of space needs.
Police department.
Police
Space is very
department.
tight over there. And I don't think when
And then
that
the Council on
building
Aging is.
was constructed, it didn't have in mind, expanding. Obviously,
it did from the 2 departments that are going to occupy the space, but other individuals said you don't need any of that.
Okay.
We were essentially told, no, don't plan for the future. And here we are, 11 years later, and we're out of space, or running out of space.
I think it's been pretty tight quarters over there for a very
It
long
has,
time.
For a long time.
regardless, but it's worked, but it's becoming more troublesome.
And I think this would be a tough sell if he was coming and asking for additional money outside the budget.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I don't know, do we need to vote, Marlene?
Yes, does need an authorization.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize, we say this, the chief to go on the firehouse conference in Arizona? Or chief and visit?
I will second that, but I do want people to understand this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow or next year.
Right.
We're talking long-term. We're not talking right away, so, I mean.
I think that's a good point, because I'm sure I'll probably get some phone calls
Because
about that.
and, you know, if you send somebody down to a conference for a pre-design, people are going to think, well, that means the town wants to build a station, and you're going to hear more screaming and yelling after this past tax increase. So I just want people to be aware it's long-term, and also the money is coming within your budget. You're not asking for any more.
And then what arrangements will be made for coverage chief-wise while you're gone? That would just be Alan?
Alan and Ray will both, we have talked about it, so they would be aware that I'm out of town, and then I'll do my best to make sure that we have those couple of days of paramedic coverage while I'm out.
Okay, so a motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do appreciate the proactive, nature of it. I don't think it's necessarily premature, because I think that if we start talking about it, we don't even know where to begin. So it would be nice to have some information.
It's hopefully what we're going to learn.
Yeah, I'd love a report afterwards too. I'm sure you'd do that anyway without us asking.
Yeah, I think Ed had indicated that as well.
Okay. Did we take an actual vote?
You did.
Okay. I didn't remember.
I think they did, yeah.
Yep, we did.
Okay. We're so efficient, we forget
remember
what
you
we
saying
did.
all in favor.
Phil, come on up. Mr. Prickett, welcome.
How's it going?
Good. You want to both come up and... David, nice to see you.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for having me. Marlene, did you get a copy of this handout from a little
did.
while ago?
We did.
Does everybody have that?
This,
Perfect.
yes.
All right. Leave with a little leaflet. You want to start, or?
So we're here to give an update on the wastewater treatment plant project. We have DPC Dave Prickett here to go over a few things. He has provided a summary to the board, so we can kick it off, Dave.
Yeah. Figured we'd just kind of give you a high-level update with what things are looking like in the coming months and how things are shaping up. So project's actively out to bid. We'll open up as a first step. We had a pre-bid meeting last week. We had really good attendance there, both from filed sub-bidders and from GCs.
Excellent.
We have filed sub-bids opening up on March 6th, so we'll likely be getting our first addendum out next week, this week, next week. Got a lot of good questions from vendors and contractors. General bids are scheduled to open up March 20th, 2 weeks after that. We try to give them a little bit of time in between to process everything. So we're right on track for being back with the group either directly, or Phil and Marlene will certainly come back to you after we provide a recommendation to award with whomever is the lowest responsible eligible bidder, as they say. And then following that, we have all the typical bonds and insurance contracts, and then about a 2-year, a little less, 1.5 to 2 year construction period. So we'll be stressing out Ken for the next 2 years, but I think he can handle it. We've got the project that remains on budget as appropriated by the residents a couple of years back, the $12 million project. I can already tell you I've had similar conversations just in the last session with costs and the sensitivity and the understandably so, lack of patience by residents and ratepayers, myself included in my own town. But there's obviously some nervous, anxious time prior to getting the bids. We put this budget together, I look back, early 2020, right before we went into the panic zone of COVID and such. At the time, we could bank on a 3 to 5% annual inflation cost for construction year over year. And some small things would change here and there with metals, et cetera, but it was always good. Just understand that obviously in the last 3 years, we've been seeing annual construction increases of at least 10% per year. I think we had 1 year where it was pushing 20. So things remain relatively volatile in that market. I think things have stabilized with residential construction, with pipeline and pavement, but anything that involves electrical equipment, mechanical equipment is still tipsy. Lead times for electrical equipment right now are about 80 weeks. I've never seen anything like this in my career. So how have we kind of planned for this as best we can? Well, again, 3 years ago, we would have never had a base bid and alternates, but we've now structured this with not only a base bid, but 5 alternates. And the reason we did that is I don't want to come back to you and say we have to rebid a project because the total project was over the allocation for construction.
I see.
I learned that lesson the hard way 2 years ago up in Orange, and ever since we try to do this. So we have a base bid for the critical infrastructure, electrical, headworks, et cetera. But then we prioritize things with Ken and Phil and Eric in terms of, okay, after that I need this the most, then I need this the most. And we are required to award the project in that order. The hope is that we at least get the base bid and alternate one. Those are the 2 elements that are most near and dear to the heart of the operators. So up until the time when we open bids, sorry.
And I just, so eliminating any alternates, like alternates 3 through 4, does not affect our USDA qualifications?
No, USDA has approved the plans and specs prior to going out. They understand this. It's a strategy that we've worked with them on other projects successfully. Sometimes you award a project and halfway through you work hard to get credits, just like the contractor would come back with extras for change orders. Up in Deerfield, we were able to get a good portion of the things that weren't originally awarded back into the project. I think beyond that, it's hard to sit here today and tell you exactly what's going to happen, but
Well, that's always the fear. I mean, by the time you go to get the bids, it's been 3 years and there's been price increases.
Yeah.
Or are you going to miss out anything? It's going to cost more.
Right.
What's going to happen here? I mean, that's always the worry.
yeah,
so.
and the dollar just doesn't go as far as it did 4
Well,
years ago.
and we're in, the last 3 years have been completely,
Yep.
you know,
Uncharted,
yeah. Especially in terms of, as you mentioned, these components and
right.
the availability of,
Things that we can't control. But we're going to hope for the best, be as responsive on the Q&A and the addenda, keep everybody at the table and interested. Relative to general contractors too, the folks that build water, wastewater treatment plants are pretty busy right now and pretty selective. And 5 years ago, we might get 5 or 6 bids for a project like this. We might only get 2 for something like this. So that also plays into it. Who's hungry on the day of the bid opening and how bad do they want the project?
I like the way that you did that, though, breaking it out so that because
Very smart.
we have had some cost overruns on other projects
Right.
that have been,
I've been at the meetings where we've asked the residents for the money and you never want to have to go back to
Right.
have a second bite at the apple. So let's,
so that's
Let's do
great.
what
So
we
you'll
can now.
keep us posted?
yeah,
I mean, March 6th is right around the corner.
right around the corner. The town and the town offices and staff have been great at getting USDA everything they need. So thanks to Marlene and the team.
David, I was going to say thank you. So my experience of working with USDA, I mean, it's been a very good experience, but it's been very clear to me that DPC is familiar with working with USDA, and you've anticipated everything that they have asked for.
It's a
So-
predictable list, albeit a long
Yeah.
list of things
Yeah,
that they want.
but documents and documents and documents, unbelievable.
They're a bank essentially, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
On one positive side, I understand there was like 3 contractors and 6 or 8 subcontractors that
Yeah.
came to the pre-bid.
Yeah, I
so.
wasn't personally at the pre-bid, but at least 3 GCs, and I would have said 6 to 8 filed sub-bidders, of which you really want to see the electrical, that's the big one. I think there's 4 or 5 different sub-bids, but electrical and GCs are the two the two big ones. So, no, the turnout was good, and it wasn't mandatory. We do that on purpose
Right.
in case somebody has a schedule conflict. But
That means there's a little competition, so that helps
I
on
hope
the
so.
bids,
Yeah,
right?
And
we have to do it too, so they might as well. Yeah.
tomorrow, someone else is coming
Oh,
to
good.
tour the plant,
Okay.
so.
Oh, so you also have an opportunity for people who
Yes.
weren't at the bid.
We try to
Pre-bid.
accommodate those requests, and Ken's great. I mean, the guys are very flexible down there,
I'd
so.
just like to add that while we work with the USDA office in Amherst, everything has to go through DC office, pretty much.
Yeah, given the
Um,
size
so
of the
it is-
project, yeah.
The process of, I guess, reviewing all our documents.
Yep.
It does, they are reviewed in Amherst as well, but.
There's a local layer, and then there's a federal layer on top of it, and
Yeah, so it can take a while.
I think we're on track,
yeah.
and, your next big decision is about the cash flow that's coming your way and how to handle the short-term interest, et cetera, so.
Yeah, but we're grateful for the loan and the grant from them.
Yeah, great. Excellent, thanks, Dave.
Good to go?
Do you have any more questions?
No, I think it's, we're moving along finally, so that's
be
We,
good.
back in a
we,
few
we
weeks.
feel very, we're in your trustworthy hands, and that's a good
Appreciate that.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate
likewise.
it.
Okay,
Anything?
thanks. Appreciate your time.
Yes,
Have a good
thanks,
evening.
Dave.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, so moving right along, it is time to, again, negotiate our laborers union contract. And you're looking to designate a board member. It was
Yeah,
Brian.
it's the board, it was Brian, Ed prior to Brian.
Right, prior to Brian, I did it, and Brian did it,
Yeah.
so I
I-
think it's,
Yeah.
I think Greg should
It's
have
going
the
to be a great
opportunity if
learning
he wants.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it. I'm in, I'm
That
okay.
seems to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
All right, so we're looking at meetings right now, the 5th, 11th, and 14th. I can follow up with you later,
Okay,
Greg, about your availability.
okay.
Typically try to schedule those meetings during the day, right? Yeah, or late afternoon, so I know you do.
I appreciate that,
May
Greg.
have some
I do,
conflicts.
because
but
work-wise, that would be a
I'd like to
stretch
get
for me.
started, and the reason, and actually, the Teamsters representative was saying, later March, and I asked him about the possibility of starting these meetings earlier, only because of the budget
Yeah.
process. So.
Okay. I mean, a lot of things were sort of straightened out in the contract last time, so maybe this time won't be as many.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Greg, I do
Phil, same
appreciate
thing with those dates. If there's any dates there that you have a
Yeah,
problem with,
just email
let
the
me know.
dates and we'll-
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next is the MassWorks grant update.
Yeah, this is just an update. So we recently received a reimbursement for $102,107, and that was all for engineering expenditures incurred in Q2 between October and December. That was submitted with our last quarterly report. And following that, the submission of that report, there's been some communication with MassWorks, the program manager. They're interested, they're aware that we are looking at additional projected costs, and, I'm staying in touch with them about that.
Oh my gosh,
But
that would be so
they're,
great.
the program manager is reviewing it with the financial staff at MassWorks. I gave them a number just recently that the engineer had given us. And Michael will be coming to a future meeting to meet with the select board to go over those projected additional costs.
Okay. Well, thanks for that update, Marlene. So that sort of concludes the DPW portion of this. I'm wondering if it makes sense to skip around a little bit because I have to leave and take care of specifically the Connecticut River Greenway MOU with Northampton.
Yes. that would be
I'm
helpful.
sure that they're anxious to get that done, so, so this is after a lot of back and forth and haggling. I had some lengthy conversations with Northampton Planning about, my feelings on this, that I was pretty clear about at previous meetings in terms of sort of the term of this. I feel like it's written in a way that I feel more comfortable now about the design process So I'm assuming you had a chance to take a look at that.
I'm fine with it.
I did, I'm good with it too.
So the
Yeah.
copy you have in your packet is the clean copy. I did bring the edited version if you wanted to take a look at it. I just didn't want to paper you down, weigh you down with all kinds of documents, but I do have the edited version here. And really, it was just sort of simplified. But it does address Diana's concerns.
You
About-
just need a motion on this?
Yes, please.
So I'll make a motion to accept the MOU from the Connecticut River Greenway Shared Use Path that presented.
A second?
Motion made and second. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, that was long and not fun process, but, okay. Anything else, Marlene, you want to make sure we get done?
Before you leave, yes, I would like to discuss the treasurer collector's position that is currently advertised and the salary. And as a result of that search, there has not been any response to our ad. I have had some conversations with the interim treasurer collector. He strongly encourages the town look at increasing that salary range. I also took a look at some other communities that later last year were in the process of trying to fill a treasurer collector position. West Brookfield, population very similar to Hatfield. However, in 2018, their population was 3,785. So a little more, and I'm sure their population may increase since 2018. Their search for treasurer collector, which was full-time, the salary range, and this was last year in August that they had posted this position, salary range was $80,000 to $95,000. So we currently are advertising the position at $78,000 plus or minus. My recommendation is to have a salary range of $80,000 to $90,000. Also, Town of Whately was looking for a treasurer collector. I reached out to Whately, haven't received a response. They didn't publish a salary range. They published an hourly rate, which I thought was significantly low, $29.36 an hour, and that is a full-time position.
That's really low.
That is. So I wanted to know if they were successful in filling the position. So I really feel that the 78,000 is too low for, what the town needs.
I mean, it's not attracting any applicants.
None. And from what I can see, looking at the Massachusetts Collector Treasurers Association page, there is a demand for filling treasurer
And so
collector
we'd be
positions.
looking at this, we, to be fair, we probably wouldn't get this person on board until very late in this fiscal year or in the next
Yeah.
fiscal year. So the budgeting
Sooner the
process,
better,
we would
but
have to,
you're right.
this is for really inclusion in next year's budget, the difference.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, by the time we advertise again and interviews are done and notices are given, I mean, you're
Well,
talking
the
about-
advertisement is still out there. I would just update it to
Well,
reflect an
right,
increase
but you have to
in
give
salary
time for
if-
people to,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, none of us are surprised to learn that.
People, I would expect that someone would be giving even 4 weeks' notice to their current employer, if not more.
I mean, I don't see really what choice we have.
I mean, the only way to get more applicants is bump it up.
I think that's the wise decision to do
I mean, it's
that.
a very, a position with very specific requirements, and
Yeah.
we want to attract a good
It's
candidate.
a significant financial officer
It is.
position for the town.
So, I mean, do we need to vote that?
Yes, please.
So you want to change it to $80,000 to $90,000 range?
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion that we change the treasurer connection treasurer collector pay range to 80,000 to 90,000 plus benefits.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then do you want, so I still have time to do a few more things. Do you want to do the accounting services?
That is simply an update. Well, I do have some concerns, and I will address them at a later time with the Select Board. Markham recently, as you know, prior to Markham, it was Melanson.
Right.
CPA. And then Markham acquired Melanson. They now have merged with Powers and Sullivan. And I included a article in your packet. Our recent accountant, who actually has been there less than a year, has left Markham, has gone back to working for a municipality. So I feel, and we see it, it's obvious that the accountant, they don't have enough accountants on staff, and they're stretched thin with the number of municipal clients that they have. So I have been monitoring the issues. I have met with the accountant's supervisor, been in touch with her as recent as early last week, and periodically we'll have reviews because, you know, I just think we need to stay on top of these issues. So, you know, going forward, I'm anticipating that they're going to be sending us a new contract for the next fiscal year, but they need to do something about their services.
I was going to say, why is there so much upheaval in this realm? Like, it's just been,
We know that, you know, the accountant, prior to the accountant that just left, you know, it was just some of the issues. I think that the accountants that Markham hires, it's a different work ethic, you know, style.
well, I just
Their
wonder if with the
outlook on accounting.
qualifications, you need to be a municipal accountant.
Correct.
You can also just be working in a, you know, not in the municipal arena and making a lot
Yeah.
more money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's treated more like a business, and I understand it is a business,
it is, yeah.
but
So you're just going to keep us posted on that.
I wanted to just bring you up to date.
And then I see that the FY23 audit is
it's
scheduled.
late. We've been, actually, the last few years, that audit has been scheduled in the late fall. So it is late, but they will be here the week of March 11th. And it just occurred to me, I had talked about this earlier and said the week of March 8th. So it is the 11th, the 18th. We're waiting on free cash and expect that we should have that soon. That has taken a little longer than usual. The accountant submitted it probably almost 4 weeks ago, the balance sheet, Schedule A. And I reached out to the Division of Local Services last week to our representative, but I haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
So,
How about the Route 5 Water and Sewer Improvements Project?
Just
Just under old
quickly,
business.
so the engineer, CEI, has had a meeting and is expecting to have another meeting very soon with the contractor to tie down those those additional costs. And Mike Ohl from CEI will be meeting with the Select Board at our very next meeting, hopefully. He was going to come March 5th when I realized, oh, he can't meet, that's the day of the election. But that conversation, we need to have that conversation and understand what we're looking at for money to get us through this project. So we are anticipating the project to resume in April. That'll be here before you know it.
Well, I mean, that's a schedule, and we've got a schedule for completion end of June. So that's what we've
Well,
been promised. And
Fingers
there's
crossed
There's
that-
penalties built in if they're not done by June.
right.
Okay.
There has been some minimal work done at the pump station there through the winter, but as far as the rest of the work
Yeah,
they need to do
nothing's
out on
happened.
Route 5, that ceased in November.
Well, I think, yeah, and that's probably a Mass DOT requirement.
It is,
yeah.
it is.
Okay, well, it looks like we got through everything on the agenda, but it would be time to look at the budget reviews. So since I have to leave anyway, do we maybe want to take a break? And then you can take that up after I go?
Sure.
Is that okay with you guys?
Sure.
Okay.
Rather than start it and...
Just quickly, while you're still here, Diana, the Historical Society, they submitted an application to Community Preservation for some proposed repairs for the barn, and then they discovered the memorandum of agreement between the town and the Historical Society finds that the town is responsible for making those repairs. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that there are significant or problems with the structure that need to be addressed. So that's something that the Historical Commission hasn't communicated with me about that, although I'm sure they will be very soon. But those those repairs should be on the capital plan.
And so why can't they still be funded with CPA? Because that's still town money.
Well, the town would have to submit an application, so we can still do that. It's sort of late in the season to submit it to community
Well, even their
preservation.
application was late, I believe.
Well, they submitted it timely, but they've revised it and resubmitted.
Okay.
So I'm going to have a conversation with John Wilk to see if it's something, if I can put together an application and submit it, because you don't want to let those holes in the barn.
Right.
I mean, that barn has a lot of potential. They could do a lot of different things with that barn. They could even put a second level on there. There's all kind of options, and it needs to be taken care of. So, especially the roof. The roof we patched a couple years ago. but
It's
it
slate,
needs-
right?
No, it's.
Oh, I didn't think it was like,
Oh, it's
just-
not?
I don't
yeah,
know. I didn't think it
roof
was, but.
A lot of barns today, the roofs are going with copper or metal
Metal.
roofing to protect it.
So there are holes in the foundation, holes in the
Right.
sides.
They got all the rodents coming in and
Ugh.
animals, and that's not good.
Okay.
So we need to button those up.
So,
Okay.
I mean, do you need a motion for us to submit that based on there, or we just submit it?
Why don't I just go, if you'd like to actually go ahead and vote to submit an application, then I will work on that and get it off to them. Otherwise, I'm just thinking I'd be coming to you with
We'd
that
have to
application to vote.
Delay
So-
it even more.
Right, so if you could vote that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is important to protect that barn and take care of everything. So. And this will be CPC funding anyways,
Right,
which is taxpayers' money matched with the state.
yes,
And what people should understand is it's when you can use CPC money, it's money that people already paid, and then the state matches it, so you don't have to ask the taxpayers to dip into their
yeah.
pockets a second time. So I'll make a motion to approve approve the application for their revised amendment proposal for the Hatfield Historical Society that's presented to us in our packets.
A second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That's fantastic, great, thank you.
Okay, so you ready to break for a few minutes?
Sure.
Okay, John.
We're back. Unfortunately, Diane, I had to go to another commitment, but we're going to continue with topic number 4, which is reviews with departments over budgets. So we're going to start. Marlene, you want to start with the accountant or HCTV?
I'll start with, I guess we all have to, well, it's going to take me a minute because I put them in alphabetical order, so
That's fine.
I had assumed they all were. But anyway, I have the cable TV enterprise budget right here in front of me, and you will see that this proposed budget is an increase. However, that increase of $103,500 is for capital, and that's for a capital project to relocate the studio upstairs. So otherwise, expenses are normal, routine, just general expenditures are about the same. There is a little bit of an increase. Oops, I'm on the wrong one here.
And I do want people to know that the increase is related to the upstairs, which is part of
It's
the
$103,500
money
more.
that's available for
Right.
doing that within the cable TV
Comes
enterprise
out of the
fund.
enterprise fund.
So the money is there, it's not asking the taxpayers for more money.
Yes,
If we move ahead with that, if the taxpayers want to, then we could have that upstairs as a conference center. I talked to John earlier. He says that right now he's got some guesstimates and he's in the middle of putting everything together, putting the plan together, and hopefully he'll have that within the next month or so. Okay.
okay.
And
Any
next you want-
questions about that budget?
No, I understand that.
Okay. Next is animal control, animal inspector and animal control officer. The animal control officer, there is an increase for training and licensing on the expense side, and this is a result of Massachusetts Department of Agricultural and Health Services, and there is mandatory licensing requirements now, so I have increased the expenses to account for that. The animal inspector's budget, there is no change. However, I do,
There's a
well,
recommended increase
I'm
in stipends.
it's not an increase, that what you see there for '25 is not an increase, but I am recommending that we increase it by 10% to $3,500. Currently, the position stipend is $3,246. I'm requesting an increase to $3,571. But that will have to be determined by the select board if you agree to increase that. And the same with the animal inspector. I'm requesting a 10% increase there as well. But the requested amount is not an increase. That's the current stipend.
Those seem reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next is Conservation Commission. It's level services, there's no change there. So the total budget is $1,846.
Okay.
Next budget is the accountant. And just put my hands on that one. There is an increase there, although we have not received a proposal for the next fiscal year from Markham based on current expenses for services. The accountant submitted a request for $102,000 for accounting support services. So that's an increase of 11%. So the requested budget is $117,100. Any questions?
No, I mean, as far as Markham with the accountant, I think next discussion is trying to make sure we start hitting our target dates on stuff, because
The change in staff is not helping.
they didn't hit target dates this year, and that's sort of upsetting, because we spent a lot of time trying to get to the point where we can hit those target dates.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can
I do have concerns about the financial
express our
operations
displeasure,
side. Yeah.
or mine anyways.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
the next one is the audit. There's no change there. We've level funded that budget. When I was speaking with the auditor last week, he had indicated that this would be his last year with Hatfield. So not really sure why. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I will further about that. But so we may be looking at hiring a new auditor for FY24 audit. Next one is a big, fairly large budget, and that is the general liability and property. Increases in this current fiscal year, although we're seeing the increases, but we haven't been invoiced, and the insurance company is just trying to decide whether they are going to invoice municipalities in this current fiscal year or the next fiscal year, and it is a result of assessed values. Property valuations increased. So they send out a representative to do an assessment of all municipal buildings. When I saw those valuations significantly higher than what the town has them assessed at, and I don't understand that. Had a conversation with our representative several months ago. They use a whole different formula, and I don't know how they can do that. So to our surprise, as with many other municipalities, we're looking at an additional premium of $13,405 as a result of those property valuations. And again, insurance company Maya has not decided if they're going to invoice municipalities in the current fiscal year. I can tell you that where we saw the increase in values was the wastewater treatment plant. Current value is that looks like 1,000. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, it's $1,066,971. The updated value is $6,957,000. So that's a difference of $5,890,000. Yeah, 90,000. These are huge.
Wow.
The EMS building, current value is $422,628. Updated value is $729,000. The water filtration plant, current value is $564,867,000. Updated value is $5,295,000. The library, current value is, these decimal points, hard to tell if it's a comma or a decimal point. That looks like $1,049,027. Updated value is $1,358,000. So I was quite upset when I met with our insurance representative over these values, and he had said that the problem is that they've waited much too long to do an assessment of the buildings. So the town is going to be on the hook for that additional premium. Just don't know if it'll be in this fiscal year or next fiscal year.
Wow.
The other increase we saw this year was the workers' comp. So we get an estimated premium on July 1, and then the payroll is audited, and we had an additional cost of $8,000. That was huge. So I'm asking for that in FY25. So you're seeing an increase there of the current operating budget's $193,428. Looking for an increase to $203,099. So that is, those are fixed costs.
We can't do
We
anything about that.
can't do anything about that.
Right.
We can't shop around.
Well, I am actually.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, consulting, working with another insurance group to see if, we have to provide them with all the same information that's available to our current carrier so that they can, it's equal.
oh, good.
But, can they provide us services, that the cost is less? I don't know.
I understand there's only a couple insurance in the whole state of Massachusetts.
And I have to also say that, in all fairness to Maya, they have an excellent employee program, and the webinars and workshops, training exercises that they have available to municipalities, to employees, and you earn credits. So when I say credits, those credits are equivalent to saving money. So you can, get a credit and apply it to you can either ask for a check and it goes to the general fund, or in some cases, we've asked for it to reduce our next invoice, only because we have fallen short the last fiscal years in funding insurance costs.
Okay.
But if we are, funding the account the way it should be, any credits earned, that would just go to the general fund, which would be helpful. If there aren't any questions, we'll move on to legal.
Sure.
All right. So legal, I think there's just an increase of $2,000. That is yes, $2,000. And that is a result of legal services and a rate increase. The last couple of years, though, we have been able to turn back money. I mean, it all depends on,
What happens?
exactly. Departments are very good about, following up with me and seeking advice from town council. And
I know the 5 and 10 project took some of his time because of the issues out there with a couple of the owners, and
yeah, some towns, yeah.
that was
It took some time. But overall, services with Attorney Mullen are very good.
No.
Yeah. The next budget is the select board. I added $1,000 to the expense for professional development. And the reason for that is, Mr. Gagnon is a new member of the board. If he is interested in, attending any conferences or meetings. But I think it's helpful to have that there for any member of the board who wishes to attend seminars or meetings for elected officials. Otherwise, there isn't any, and I said that increase was added for professional development. Actually, it's professional services, if you wanted to hire an outside vendor. The professional development, that was added a few years ago. Yeah, so that's a $14,441 requested budget. All right, next, town administrator and staff budget. And So there are increases being recommended. Actually, there is an increase that is a one-time, and that's per the town administrator's contract. Since I will be retiring at the end of the year, there is a 25% 25% value of estimated accrued unused sick time that is paid out. And so that is a one-time payment, and that will go away. I am requesting, although the budget numbers do not represent what my recommended request, to increase the administrative salaries. They don't typically, they usually receive the cost of living adjustment. However, I do feel that performance or merit, based on merit increase, is deserving of the staff. We have an excellent administrative staff. And I feel that they should be rewarded. And in a time when it's difficult to maintain, or keep your staff, I wouldn't want to be doing anything differently.
We've also discussed the possible step increases like the school does too. And there was always a thing about, well, do you have step-ins or do you have a step increase for each year based on, if you do a good job.
So I understand that many years ago, the town engaged a consulting company when they evaluated all the job descriptions, and they put together a pay scale grade, and it wasn't something that the town could afford. So it was a shame, because there was one, that was developed, but it's not used.
Well, it is used at the schools.
No, I'm talking about town employees.
Right.
For the
but
town.
I mean, the school has implemented that over the years, step
Right.
increases.
They follow.
And their employees are far more than administrative staff down here.
Yeah, they follow a grade system there.
So, I mean, maybe we should be
And they're in
looking
the,
at,
the teachers and the paraprofessionals are in a union.
maybe that's something we should be discussing again. I mean, why should one group have it and the other group doesn't? Just food for thought.
Okay. The current salary for '25 for the town administrator is the current, the requested 25 salary is based on the current year salary. But I just wanted to mention that that could be subject to a contractual increase if the board was willing to consider that.
Right.
And the other thing to keep in mind is, and I've had the discussion with the select board, that when replacing me, you may have to look at increasing that salary. It's just a possibility.
Again, we go out to, we get a thing out there, and then we get in people applying, fine. If we don't get people applying, and then we have to look at increasing, that's all.
I was comfortable in reducing the advertising and legal notices. I don't have a note about that, so it's embarrassing to say, because the cost of legal notices, I know why. Because the cost of publishing legal notices has increased considerably, but I've been charging that to our legal budget. So I was able to reduce that a little bit. The only other category here under the town administrator's budget is the cost of hiring a professional firm. Just food for thought if you want to consider it. I would obviously have to add a number in there, but if you're considering outsourcing the search for the town administrator, there would be a cost to doing that. I don't know that that's been determined, whether, you'd like to do that or just appoint a committee, a search committee.
Well, I think right now, I think the game plan is just looking at all the budgets and saying where the numbers are and saying if, whether we have to stay within, or whether we're within what we have to spend, or whether we have to possibly make a percentage cut.
Yeah.
Know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
so
Okay.
just letting everybody know at home, these budgets aren't in stone yet until we do finalization with the finance committee and everything else. We're just getting all the budgets in, people are putting in their request, and then we'll look at everything and then make a determination afterwards.
Yeah. So overall, the increase is really on the wages side. Expenses slightly under, so that's down from 11,679 for expenses in the current fiscal year to $10,580. On the wages side, there's an increase of from 190,965 to 202,048. That really represents that one-time payout. But if the select board is in agreement to propose a merit increase for administrative staff, then there would be an increase there. Are there any questions?
No, well explained.
Now, so far, everything's pretty much self-explanatory.
Okay, next budget is technology. Increases in support services and replacing equipment. Suzer has provided a cost proposal for support services, which was, I think we were running around 29,000. They're looking at a cost of $35,000 for
Well, under
support services.
technology, one of my pet peeves for over the years is trying to save on paper. I mean, if we had iPads, we would probably save tons and tons of paper. Actually, there's two things.
And we've had discussions about that.
And I know I bring it up every year because all this paper, and if you have an iPad, you have a electronic file it can go to.
Yeah.
It just probably, whether it's each month or file system of some sort, but that's always been
So
my
it just
pet
would
peeve.
be scanning all the documents and then uploading them to the iPads. So, yeah, Ed and I were talking last week, and I'd like to get a quote from Suzer.
And we get some kind of
see what it
idea
would
of what it would
cost,
cost.
yeah.
And actually, we get some kind of idea of what we're paying for paper, copying machine, and maintenance of the copier, and et cetera, et cetera.
It's just a lot of waste
Right, there's a
in
ton of
all the
waste.
copying.
And I've been bringing that up each year since I've been on the board. That,
Yeah.
and under technology, other thing is electronic timekeeping. I hope we can move to electronic timekeeping, because right now, the way I understand it, everybody prints out their sheets, and then somebody in the town hall has to re-enter the information a second time, which takes a couple of days. So with electronic timekeeping, it would all be done. We would save 2 days a week on doing electronic timekeeping that way. But, I mean, I know UMass had electronic timekeeping 40 years ago, so, or
Whoa.
30.
Whoa.
But, I mean, if there's some way, I know we've had trying to look for a new treasurer in the office, but my understanding is the software is in place, it just hasn't been set up. Is that correct?
The software is in place.
Just some glitches?
My understanding, it would require, some training for the departments or whoever's going to be processing each department's
But
payroll.
under technology, I mean,
But
that's,
everything is there.
Yeah.
For quite some time, it was just getting the treasurer's office up to speed and running on processing the payroll in a new program. But now, yes, I just don't see any reason why we can't have all
I mean,
departments
since
submit it.
when I first got on the board the second month, that was my first
Mhm.
observation.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the iPads. I mean, there's a lot of paper. There's just too much paper
Yeah.
being wasted.
Mhm.
So anyways, under
Okay.
technology, I just wanted to bring up those thoughts. I don't know how you feel about it, Greg.
Oh, I think we're way behind on that, yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, agree. Definitely. The other increase is on software licensing, and there was a need to increase that by a few $100s. And, just going back to the support services, that is about a $10,000 increase. But I'd like to also mention that that reflects an increase in the support services for the town's website. We did see an increase in that. And then the replacement of equipment. We're estimating about $7,600 for replacing equipment in the next fiscal year.
Well, we've made a commitment over the years to keep up the technology.
We do.
So
We
not a bad thing.
track that inventory list and try to stay on
Yeah,
schedule.
we've been doing pretty good, I think, staying up with that, so.
Yes.
Right.
Next operating budget is town hall operations. That consists of the copier lease, and the current copier lease expires this year. So we looked at a 3-year lease versus a 5-year lease, and it is cheaper to go with a 5-year lease. However, that requires town meeting approval. By statute, the town cannot enter into a lease agreement that is greater than 3 years.
Right.
So it's in our best interest to lease the copier for 5 years. So that's, and actually, there will be a little bit of savings by doing the 5 years. So you can see that we've reduced the copier. Oh, and this also includes the postage meter that is leased. So the current operating budget for the copier and the postage leases is $10,622. It's been reduced to $8,500. We've increased postage because of the postage stamp increase, and we've had to bump up administrative and office supplies. So all the paper is purchased out of this budget. There's been an increase in the cost of paper. Speaking of paper, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. There's the paper, guys.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah. So overall, that budget request is a reduction. Current year is $17,005. The request is $15,412. And lastly, the Veteran Services budget. That is level services. However, I am recommending that the Select Board support an increase in the stipend. The number requested for FY25 is the current year's stipend, which is $6,329. Select Board did increase that for this current fiscal year. However, we're having a difficult time filling that position. And I'm not sure if it's because it's, it's maybe 8 to 10 hours a week, but the reporting to the state and just making themselves available to assist veterans who are either, looking into benefits. And I've also increased the cost, for attending trainings, because I feel that with anybody you're putting in that position, needs to have that opportunity to attend meetings and trainings.
Right, I mean, and so far in the past, we've been able to get Northampton to assist in training if we find somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm hoping somebody from community would step forward,
Yeah.
but it has to be a veteran in town that wants the job. And then I guess if we get a person forward, maybe we could negotiate the higher stipend
Right?
with that individual at
that,
that
yeah.
time. Until now, but for now, we're locked in with Northampton because these services are required.
Yeah, so we're locked into a contract with Northampton through June 30th.
Right.
The veterans position remains posted.
But
And
I think for next year, we should lock in the Northampton cost for the year in case, just to be on the safe side.
Okay.
It gives us leeway, it gives us 2 ways to go. If we can't find anybody, at least that is covered. And if we do find somebody, maybe we could save a few dollars that can go into free cash afterwards, but
Yeah.
that's just my thought. I don't know how Greg feels about that.
I think that's great, yeah, because we're not guaranteed to find anybody.
That's right.
Right.
We're not.
We kind of have to plan for the bigger one.
Right, lock in the Northampton's cost for the year, and
Mhm.
we're covered, both sides.
Yeah.
If we get somebody, we might save some couple dollars,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. Yeah. In Northampton, I'm very grateful for them helping us out, and the staff over there, they're great to work with.
Yeah.
Because right now, we're working with, what, 8, was it 8 people?
Currently, the town has 8 veterans that receive benefits.
And the town receives some of the money back from the state, which is it 75%?
I didn't check on that, Ed, and I was just reading something about that, but I wanted to check in the percentage. Yeah, so we get money on the cherry sheet.
Right,
It's a VSO exemption is what it's referred to. And it's, I don't know, somewhere between $1,100 to $1,200. It's
oh,
not
and
a
if you
lot.
do talk to Veterans Services in Northampton, can you, I thought Jerry said that the state will pay us for flags, American flags,
Oh, I saw your email about that, yeah.
because I know right now the elementary school, no, I mean the Smith Academy needs a flag, the town hall needs a flag. Both of the flags at Smith Academy and Town Hall are pretty worn.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the flags that for the poles for Memorial Day services, and then sometimes they get the little handheld flags that they
Yeah,
give out to the kids, so.
yeah. We increased the Memorial Day budget a few years ago
Right.
to purchase more flags for the poles. Jerry had encouraged us to do that, and so we did.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sort of covers topic 4, and I think that covers everything for today. Are we missing anything?
I believe we have covered everything.
Okay. Do you have any other business that you need to bring up?
I do not.
Then I will entertain a motion.
Oh, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, John.